Hello friends, this is Darkscream, and this is my one allotment. I usually do about one React video per 2 or 3 months. I really don't do a lot of these. But this time, we're gonna react to the Bald King himself. So, New World is getting interesting. For those of you who don't know, I actually played New World pretty avidly. Especially towards the end of Shadowlands when things fell apart. You know, I think a lot of people during that time went to try other MMORPGs, right? But I was a big war player. Now, let me show you. Wars. So wars were an interesting thing too, because there's been a lot of iterations of the wars, but usually most people felt like they could never get into wars. You had to be known by a company, which is their equivalent of guilds, right? So, when I say I was pretty into New World, I was pretty into New World. Less than 0.1% of the players who purchase New World have 50 war wins. And you can go higher than that, but I quit before I got more. And that's not participated in 50 wars, right? I've won 50 wars. So I was pretty hardcore into New World. I was in the ultra tippity top of the player base, and yet, amongst those players, I was mediocre. You know, you can never be the best. I also really like New World for its crafting. I think Dragonflight took a lot of inspiration from that. Did not like the faction system as much, and I certainly didn't like their content cadence, which is why the game is not currently installed. This will be Asmon Gold reacting to the announcement of the expansion and some of the features, so I'm gonna react to the Bald Man, and let's see if we agree on how we feel about New World as both lapsed players of the game.
So New World, for anybody who doesn't know, is actually getting a massive expansion. They are increasing the level cap, they are adding in new dungeons, they are increasing the item cap, and they are changing a lot of things with the game.
Okay. New level cap. I will 100% play this, regardless of what people think of it. If you're an MMORPG that I've played before and you increase the level cap, you give me a new leveling experience, new quests, new lore, and everyone will be playing the heck out of it that week, yeah, I'm gonna play that. Doesn't mean I'm gonna stick around after I reach the level cap, though. Now what is this I see? Mounts? So I know people are going to be happy that there's mounts, but it's honestly such a stupid thing, and let me tell you why. People complained about mounts. They wanted mounts. They wanted to get around faster. So AGS said, yeah, you know, in the future, you'll get a mount. We're working on it. It's something we're working on. The next zone that they released, Brimstone Sands, was 3 times as large as any zone they'd ever released before, and we didn't have mounts yet. So what people don't understand is they haven't saved any time, nothing actually gets done faster. When you have a game that doesn't have some speed boosting feature like mounts, and then the developer gives you mounts, all they're doing is stretching out the distance and time of things so that you need to have that mount in order to do things in the same amount of time. This does not speed up your gameplay at all, but unfortunately, New World attracted an audience of players who are mostly never played MMORPGs before. It is largely a first-person shooter audience, so there's a lot of MMORPG cultural meta things that the New World player base just doesn't understand. So I feel like they're about to make some mistakes that World of Warcraft made back in the day. And I don't think they're adding flying. I don't think they're adding... and the craziest thing, New World already has teleports. You can just open your map and teleport anywhere, whenever you want. Like, why do you... Alright, so... I said something positive, I said something negative. That was 13 seconds into the video. Let's let the Bald Man talk.
They are changing a lot of the endgame activities, improving them, and so we'll take a look at what this video is about.
New World is an MMORPG
And they're adding
that's had an interesting lifespan so far. During the beta phase, the red flags were obvious. The game released in...
No, they weren't, because nobody would listen to me. Nobody would listen. To be fair, Lazy Peon also was making the same videos that I was, and we were both getting shit on by the community.
September 2021, and initially
Okay, for context, we have to go back in time here. I was playing the game when Asmon Gold was saying that. He said things from the beta that were true in the release, which is, it's got a lot of novelty, it's a lot of fun, but there's literally nothing to do in the endgame. There was literally no endgame. The only things you could do were wars, which, if you were in them, New World felt like an amazing game. That's the crowd I was in. And then there was, chest runs and farming, and that was it. Eventually they got to the point where they released mutator dungeons, which were kind of like Mythic Plus. They were I'm gonna say they're okay. They weren't great, they weren't horrible, they were just kind of mediocre. They released Outpost Rush, which is like a PvP battleground type thing. That did seem somewhat well received, however, it really exposed the balance problems that they had amongst the different weapon types. For a lot of us called Outpost Rush Musket Rush, because that's what you used. You just used the musket. Or the bow, maybe. You probably want to have like a life staff or mage in there too, but mostly muskets. Mostly people will just set up as musketeers on the walls and avoid combat, and it just turned into a weird first-person shooter thing. Again, remember what I said about the audience who moved to New World, right? So anyway, back in the day, Asmon Gold and Lazy Peon said, endgame sucks, and they were right.
at launch was insanely fun until about level 30 or so, then it just fell off a cliff, with many people discovering game-breaking bugs, turning New World into a meme.
Oh my god, we've gotten this far and I didn't mention the bugs and the exploits. This game was the most... It felt like early 90s shooters before we had anti-cheat. Like, it was ridiculous, okay? Gold dupes. There's like 100 million ways to duplicate gold, and AGS had no way to track it, no way to figure it out. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. There's also a number of weapon glitches. For example, there was something with the healing circles on the ground where if you repeatedly spammed crouch and uncrouch, popped a squat repeatedly, you would get extra ticks of healing. Or there were a number of weapon glitches, like a lot of stuff with Void Gauntlet, a lot of stuff with Ice Gauntlet, where you could get more damage than you were supposed to have and instantly one-shot people. Or even in some points of the game, actually all three of those weapons, Life Staff, Ice Gauntlet, Void Gauntlet, you could just have a lot of people use them in your war and it would lag the server out because it was that poorly optimized. So New World was an absolute shit show of bugs and exploits. I don't know why the fuck I kept playing it, to be honest. I honestly, it says a lot about how much damage Shadowlands did to the World of Warcraft build that I continued playing this fucking exploit festival of a game.
Gold mine overnight. The devs didn't give up though.
I don't think that the bugs had anything to do with why people quit playing.
They do. They are part of why I quit, because eventually it became clear to me that even after fixing the bugs and doing a fresh start, there was immediately more bugs, more exploits. It never ended. It never stopped. I bet there's still new exploits popping up in the game today. And not little tiny funny glitches or bugs. These are things like, oh yeah, I just gave all my gold cap worth of coin to someone, and I still have the gold cap worth of coin in my bags because I pulled the Ethernet cord out of my computer. Not this game. They were absolutely a factor in why people quit. They are why the fresh start servers existed, because the majority of the remaining player base didn't want to play on what they thought were dirty, contaminated cheater servers. And then after the fresh starts came out, the new exploits came out, and the fresh, clean servers were also dirty, cheater, corrupted servers. So yes, it absolutely did. I don't think this is a good take from the bald man here.
I don't. I really don't. I think the reason why people quit playing is because it was too repetitive. Like, that's straight up why. And like leveling slowed down so much.
They went away and started addressing issues one by one, leading to the game having a major resurgence in player numbers for its first major update, Brimstone Sands, in October 2022.
Small correction on that. The update, the increase of players was actually because of the fresh servers, and New World did like this whole huge event, and it was actually the fresh server event that happened after Brimstone Sands, but the fresh server event happened like maybe a few weeks or a month after the Brimstone Sands patch. They fumbled the event too. Yeah, there were some problems with it.
Since then, New World has been rather quiet.
People are really excited
over the course of the past year. It's been losing players again month on month, which is mainly due to no new big content.
Well, let's see. Let's see where it's at right now. Charts. 17K. I feel like it's gone up a bit, but it usually goes on weekends. Not a lot to impress.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Oh, wow. Okay, well, let's check. Let me pull it up. Okay, so looks like some of this news has bolstered their player base a little bit, up to 19K from, I think Asmon was looking at around here, right? Yeah, 16, 17K. So, player count isn't everything, right? It's okay to enjoy a niche MMORPG, but you don't want to go from an all-time peak like that to a 24-hour peak like that. That is, that's a rough.
Impressed me there. And it looks like the game, you know, is it 18,000? Like now it's pretty much not that great. And it's just kind of chilling, you know? Actually not bad. No, it's not awful, no. But it's not great either, you know? And so, yeah, for an MMO, it's not doing super great. And I think there's a lot of reasons to that, but it's not like it's a dead game, but it's definitely a very small niche game that a lot of people... I think the worst thing about New World is the fact that so many people tried New World and they didn't like it, or they had a bad experience. And like once somebody has a bad experience playing a game, they usually don't want to go back and try it again after it improves. And that's what's happened with, I'm trying to think, like, that's what happened with WoW. Like, that's what happens with a lot of WoW expansions, is, like, the expansion comes out, it's fucked up, they fix it, people don't come back, right? That's just how it is. And Diablo 4, right? They improved Diablo 4 a pretty considerable amount. It's still not great, but it is improved, at least. And nobody gives a shit. Because people have already decided that the game's bad. It's like once gamers make their mind up on something, it's very hard for them to change it. No Man's Sky and not old school RuneScape, like Final Fantasy XIV, these are the exception, not the rule.
The MMO releases and players just running out of stuff to do.
People are stubborn. Well, it's not that people are stubborn. People don't like changing their mind. Because changing their mind means that they were wrong. And people don't like admitting they're wrong. People would rather double down on an opinion that they know is wrong rather than change their mind.
Though New World...
Yeah, I don't think that has anything to do with gamers. That's not a gamer thing. It's called first impressions, and it's been common sense knowledge to most of humanity for a very long time. First impressions matter. It sucks, but that is how it is.
World has announced its first real expansion, Rise of the Angry Earth, which will bring massive fundamental changes to the game, increase the level and gear score cap, as well as finally add mounts to the game. In this video, I'm going to discuss everything you need to know about the New World expansion, as well as jump into the game now in its current state to prepare my character for the new content, as well as see what other cool changes have been added to the game over the past year.
Yeah, I think the trailer, by the way, was really good.
First, today's sponsor, Dragon Raja. Dragon Raja is an anime-inspired MMORPG powered by Unreal Engine 4 that's available to play cross-platform on Android, iOS, and PC. Dragon Raja's just released a new patch, including the all-new warrior assassin class, Yasai,
looks like shit.
A class inspired by Japanese ninjas, with a large folding fan as the main melee weapon and the kunai as the long-range weapon.
Yeah, it looks like weeb
and if
fan
the ninja
service
playstyle isn't enough for you, then there's 13 other classes to choose from, whether you want to wreak havoc from range with the Visioneer class, or ride straight into the action.
Why is she wearing a fucking fucking VR headset?
action with the very unique skateboarder
Oh my
class.
god.
Dragon Raja has
Bro.
done a great job at designing a variety of classes for different playstyles.
Yeah.
There's also a new
Okay,
PvP
it's
hide
like
and seek mode available, where players disguise themselves as different items
this
and
what the
try
kids
not to
like
get caught
these
by the
days?
enemy team.
I am
Dragon
just
Raja
not.
also
I'm
features
just not
very
part of this
in-depth character
demographic, dog.
customization that doesn't just allow
Like,
physical
I'm just
and
not.
wardrobe changes, but also lets you define your character's personality
I don't have
and
any
their
interest in
responses
this
to their
bullshit.
surroundings. With
And
the
I
new
like
update,
anime.
there's tons of
I watch a
rewards
lot
and
of
limited
anime.
time items up for grabs
Oh.
for new and returning players. There's even
Not
more
this
rewards
unicorn
and events
puke,
waiting for
though.
you by joining
Jesus
the official
Christ.
communities linked below. So download Dragon Raja using the link in the description and join in on the action today.
I mean, good for Lazy Peon for getting a sponsorship, right? Bags of money, that's what you want, but... I don't know if I got big enough, would I accept a sponsorship like this? I haven't had to make that decision yet in my tiny little YouTuber career, but there's just something... What is this shit? Yeah, I don't know if I would want to lend my voice to a game that I wasn't going to play. So, I don't know. Oh my god, look at that. Yeah, okay. This is weeb fan service shit. That's all I have to say.
Download now. So the last time I played New World was during the PTR for the Brimstone Sands expansion. I didn't actually play the game when the expansion fully launched, because my main server was dead due to everyone playing fresh stuff.
I love to hear that. Because remember what I said about how people quit the game and they don't come back because their server's dead?
That is true that people do that. However, New World gave everybody 2 free server transfers. So you could just move. Now, you couldn't move your character to the Fresh Start server, so if your friends were the ones who went to Fresh Start to, like, avoid all the tainted, corrupted cheater servers, well, 1, they were stupid, because guess what happened to their new Fresh Start servers? The same goddamn thing. But 2, you could literally just move to a big server if you wanted to. Some were locked, right? But depends on which month you were talking about. They had a lot of different server transfer rules, but there was always somewhere to go if your server was dead. And last time I played, they had merged everything down to like 3 or 4 servers or something. It's like a handful. And they were all high pop full servers, which to me was a little troublesome because if they ever did an expansion or a major patch release, those servers are not going to handle the player base logging in, right? Those servers are going to get demolished. 100,000 people might log in to 4 servers that are meant for 5,000 people each. Keep that in mind.
So funny that I was right. Because it was fucking obvious. Like, it's not even any sort of, like, fucking Nostradamus. Wow, big surprise. People don't want to play an MMO whenever nobody's playing on their server.
And I really didn't want to start again. I log into the game and I immediately see people spamming X-Egg in the chat. So I did the same thing and got invited to a 20-player raid group. If you played more than a year ago, you'd know that you couldn't make raid groups in New World previously.
I haven't
Yes, so that is new to me. I have never seen a raid group in New World. It created them during wars and outpost rushes and things like that where it was like phased content. But even so, like, they didn't have the raid group technology, and that added to the bugs. Also, shout out to Dark Urge, made it out of Faerun all the way into Aeternum, right on.
made a raid
The
before.
max group size was 5 players, so straight away I was surprised and happy with this change. We basically went around the map in this group and did some seasonal daily event called the Siege of Sulphur, where you protect eggs from waves of mobs and get good rewards. Pretty cool, and I'm a fan of any content that brings players together in an MMO. Basically, within minutes of logging in, I was in a massive group of players doing massively multiplayer things.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like that.
I actually think that the outdoor content for New World, it can be kind of bad because of the friction with players running into each other and spell effects. But I actually think things like chest runs are really cool. I like chest runs. I am a chest run enjoyer. And I thought they were a unique type of gameplay that New World had. And I even kind of like their events too.
So I wanted to finish.
He is right, by the way. I know I ragged on chest runs earlier, but as a piece of content to do, it's novel, it's fun, it's new, it's different. Chest runs were you gathered up like 100 people and you just crawl like a stream of ants across a high level elite area where if you were alone all the monsters are terrifying and will kill you, but because you're in a giant group maybe you won't die. People still died in chest runs a lot, which was, a testament to the good design of the game, I think, but also these chest runs. Then, you turn your PvP flag on, and now you have two chest runs going through an area that are opposite factions, and the PvP open world battles that would erupt in the middle of these elite monster fights. There's something there. There is something very good there. If only New World were a better game overall. I think it there is something there to that content that other MMORPGs just do not provide. I can't think of one since maybe Dark Age of Camelot that did this right.
Finish off getting all weapon masteries to level 20 to prepare for the new expansion.
Probably do that.
I only needed to level the greatsword and
I
blunderbuss.
did it exactly here too. Yep.
So I looked online for the best strat, and the current best method is to do this repeatable Thorpe events at this area in Great Cleave.
Stupid.
It was here where I stumbled upon another new addition to New World, augments, which are basically boosters that you can buy off the cash shop. The most significant ones, in my opinion, are the weapon XP and gathering XP boosters.
What the fuck was that?
Double your XP. You've also got season XP.
They have boosters? Jesus Christ, this game's gone pay to win already? Oh my god. Well, that makes me want to play it a lot less. I heard they added a battle pass, but I didn't realize it was that bad.
XP and territory standing boosters, which do a similar thing, and a proficiency booster which increases your gathering yields by 10%.
Fuck that.
If these boosters were in the game at launch, everyone would be complaining that they were pay to win, and rightly so. I guess the game's been out long enough at this point that most people have capped gathering and weapon masteries anyway, so it's not a big deal.
I think it's, yeah, that's true. It's the same thing as in like Wayfinder, and I think that apparently, I don't know if Warframe does this too, people told me that it did, is that they sell you some of like the base items that you can get, but anybody who's playing the game seriously at all, like, already has this, and it's easy for them to get them.
I like Warframe. I've played a lot of Warframe. It's free to play, so you have to forgive a certain amount of asking for money, right? They gotta get their dollars somehow. What he said there is true, but also untrue. New World has, or Warframe has a really complicated monetization system where there's platinum, and that can be exchanged between players, and you can buy platinum with real money, and you can get platinum as a Twitch drop, you get platinum from doing some things in the game, and then it's like Digital Extremes, the maker of Warframe, realized that meant that there's an aftermarket for platinum. People would sell RMT with platinum instead of giving them the money, so they went ahead and made a currency that could not be exchanged. And they've done this a few times. And every time they release a new Warframe, a new robot that you can fly around space with, they sell a bundle for you to buy the Warframe and get some extra cosmetics. And they sell a lot of cosmetics. As well, you can also use platinum to skip waiting time. In Warframe, you can craft all sorts of stuff. It's really, really good, enjoyable farming crafting loop, but crafting stuff can take 8 hours or 24 hours sometimes. And of course, they have a little button there that says spend platinum to rush this craft. So as much as I like Warframe, it's got a good art style, it's got an amazing gameplay. It's a really, 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 really good game that you should try if you haven't. But it also has some problems, and it does have some predatory monetization tactics that they use. However, it's not, there's no race to world first, there's no competitive esports scene to Warframe, so the pressure to do that type of stuff is lower. That said, I still just don't like it. I just don't like it.
And so, like, for most people, if you played New World, this wouldn't have really affected you. Yeah, it doesn't matter, exactly. And so like this, like the gathering yield I think is kind of stupid, but the other ones I don't really care about that much, because this is something that you would have just done as an outcome of playing the game.
Either way, I popped the weapon XP booster and got both weapons to 20 mastery super fast at the Thorpe spot. Another nice change, if you hold Control plus C and left click, you can spam click to very quickly salvage all of your crap. You'll be doing this a lot during your time playing New World. The next amazing change to the game since the last time I played is the addition of multiple gear sets loadouts. This was one of the most requested features to be added since launch, and I'm happy to say it actually works very well except for one caveat. The thing I love about New World's gear set system is storing gear in these templates actually removes it from your inventory, which is
it makes it to where it doesn't take up weight.
Nice, because if you've got 3 to 4 different gear sets, your bags would be an absolute mess otherwise. Really nice. The caveat here is that if you want more than 2 gear set storage, you need to buy it off the cash shop for...
Which, I don't think this is really going to matter a lot whenever the expansion comes out, because the reason why you would want to have multiple gear sets is for ward gear, and ward gear is being removed from the game. So, like, right now, it's like one of these weird things where, like, I think it's kind of shitty that they sell these now, but I think that whenever they make the change in the expansion, this actually won't matter at all, and it will have no impact on a normal player.
Roughly $5.
So it will get better.
I started working my way through the Brimstone Sands MSQ and realised I was earning season XP. Basically a battle pass you can work through which gives various rewards such as furniture, skins, gypsum, currency and so on. Your typical battle pass, love it or hate it, it is what it is. At least it gives players at endgame something to work through once they've completed everything else, I guess.
Yeah, shitty lazy game design.
As I was questing through Brimstone...
A battle pass, like who gives a fuck? I mean, like, I really...
I give a fuck.
I wish that instead of a battle pass, they added rewards to different NPCs out in the open world, like different cosmetics, to get people to, like, go out and do that. But I guess Battle Pass kind of achieves that in another way. I think that it's stupid to just, like, hate Battle Passes categorically.
No, it's not.
But whenever I have
that opinion,
I don't want anybody to think that I like them. I don't... Like, anytime that I see there's a battle pass, I just look at, okay, what do I need to do out of this? Okay, I'll just go do this, that's it. Like, I don't get excited. Like, battle passes are not content to me.
Correct.
If that makes sense. Like, battle passes do not move the needle at all, one way or another, on how I feel about a game, or what I do really in a game that much. Like,
poor Asmongold, he has been beaten down. He is like the... I think it was Steve Sharif from Ashes of Creation said that MMORPG players are often like abused dogs. You know, we're sad and we're afraid of the next SWAT of the newspaper. That's Asmon right now. Fucking playing it neutral with battle passes. So I'm not going to play it neutral. No. Battle passes in MMORPGs are really, really, really bad. Now, some people call the trading post in WoW a battle pass. It's really not. It's not. You don't understand what a battle pass is. You've just been tricked by the fact that there's a bar you fill up. But, and I know there's a free battle pass and a paid battle pass for New World, so starting to create that separation in the player base of the whales and the not whales, right? As soon as a game starts doing that, the chances that I'll play that game long term drop significantly.
Like, maybe a little bit. If I'm very invested in a game, I'll do, like, a little bit extra stuff to get the battle pass, but other than that, not so much.
Sans, there were a few things going through my mind. Number one, the greatsword feels way more fun and better designed than every other weapon in the game. Number two...
Well, is that true?
Yeah. Yes, it is. I used greatsword.
Probably. I mean, like, I like the hammer. I think the hammer is pretty good, too. I really like the hammer. I really like the hatchet, too. I'm not a fan of the rapier, but I know a lot of people like it. I feel like a lot of the weapons play very well.
I mean, when greatsword came out, all you saw was greatswords. Not just for the novelty, but because it just did so much more damage than everything else in the game, and its animations were so much more fluid than anything else in the game. It also had, like, passive movement speed, and dashes forward, and just crazy, crazy, crazy things. Oh, it had better stat scaling as well, so that's why it dealt more damage. Um, it it was a dual stat weapon, strength and dex, so you could just build like super offensively and just go around one-shotting people. I personally liked like a medium or heavy build with greatsword and axe or greatsword and hammer, but what eventually became meta was like a light build with greatsword and hatchet, so that you could build with no defenses, and as soon as you were in trouble, you switched to hatchet for the cheat death effect. It was it was a special time in the metagame, let me tell you.
I think the problem really is just tuning. Like, for example, a lot of people don't play range in PvE, and I think that's a huge problem. And they're addressing this with the expansion. But like, I would, because like in a high level like mutations, almost everybody that plays mutations that I've seen at least videos of is playing with like a hatchet, a great sword, or a great axe for DPS, right? And like you have maybe one person with a spear. For the spear does a debuff. And so you need to have the debuff. But other than that, you know, you're pretty much using the same melee weapons. So I feel like I wish that the ranged weapons had more value in PvE.
Wish that ranged weapons had more value in PvE. So, for invasions and for anything versus corrupted, ranged, like, musket and bow were fine. They were harder to play and didn't always do great cleave damage. But that's why you bring someone with a great axe to compact everything in with a gravity well. If you had mobs trapped in a gravity well, then you could have your archer hit all the mobs with their attacks, and it was insane damage. However, good archers were very hard to find. Bow was a very skill-based weapon, so the reason you see lots of people just sticking to the meta of all melee is because it's much easier, and good ranged players are much more rare. On the other hand, I know that mages really suffered. Both fire and ice just weren't, they just didn't quite get there in PvE. Even in situations where they were supposed to, like say Angry Earth, weak to fire damage. Well, in mutators, mobs would get an elemental type affix. So sometimes you would have the Angry Earth dungeon with the fire affix. Well, guess what? That means your fire mage dealt less damage. So there was just a lot of metagame problems that kept ranged out of being useful everywhere. They were more niche picks. You wouldn't bring an archer to the Angry Earth dungeon. You wouldn't bring a mage to the Corrupted dungeon either. But in both of them, you're going to want a spear and a hatchet and an axe. Sometimes they even started going without tanks, or tanks would run two damage weapons. You have like a hammer, axe, tank. So I think there's a lot to be said for the weapon balance in New World. It was kind of all over the place.
Visually, the game is still one of the best looking MMOs out, and the sound effects are best in genre.
True. Whoa, yo, Lazy Peon, very smart guy. So what did he say there? Looks very nice for an MMO. Yeah, you know, it's got pretty good graphics. I think sometimes my computer even struggled with it a little bit. I don't know if that's optimization or if it's just upgrade time for me. But the sound design of this game, oh my god. Oh my god. It has a very advanced sound simulation. So when you hear a gunshot of a musket, or you hear a clink from someone mining some ore somewhere, the way that you would hear that sound was entirely directional. As well, it echoed across the mountains, so you could hear it from really far away. Sometimes I would pick up that someone was attacking my zone and starting to push influence, because I would hear the musket shot from like halfway across the map, it felt like. Especially when playing with headphones, you really get good like perception of direction. And all the sound effects are clean, high definition sound, squeaky clean. Didn't often feel video gamey or cartoony, felt fairly realistic, very satisfying with the clanks and clunks of the melee weapons too. You know, if we lived in a world where what used to be called force feedback, rumble packs, right? You get the rumble in your controller. That kind of thing would have felt appropriate in New World just because of how raw and visceral the weapons felt sometimes.
3, the general movement in New World feels so fucking scuffed at times that the game
So
yeah. Yeah.
I genuinely do not know how it's this bad. It's actually impressive how bad it is. And
it's the lumberyard
I had
engine.
to pause just to like make emphasis on this, that the movement and collision in New World is simultaneously some of the best and some of the worst collision in every MMO and in all video games I've ever played. And what I mean by that is that climbing in New World is, I think, one of the best designed climbing mechanisms in any MMO that I've ever played, any game I've ever played. I actually think the climbing of, like, you know, for example, getting up to that top area with like those 2 chests on it and brimstone sands feels so fucking amazing. It's actually so well designed. But on the other side, you're climbing up that big tower. What's it called? Malevolence in Eden Grove, I think. Like, that is just fucking phenomenal.
Yes.
Right? But fighting against an alligator and having the alligator knock you through a fucking piece of wood, and then you're fucking, you're like going like this non-stop because the game doesn't know where you are.
Yeah.
That's so bad, exactly. It's awful.
Still feels like it's in alpha in some places.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Like, you still can't swim in New World. Still feels like it's in alpha in some places. He goes like this. He goes whoop. Like, you still can't swim in New World.
Sometimes
your attacks
gonna
will
go
very
off,
frequently
knock him off
just
the edge.
not register when
knock him back into the water.
Yeah.
Relentless.
There's something, I think that there's something with the registry of this game. And I think there's a problem where, like, the game readjusts your character based off of where the game thinks your character is. Or there's some sort of like weird fucky tech that goes on with this because it's so bad, and I've never seen it in any other game.
Rush.
Okay, so this is sometimes why I have a problem when people are like, Asmongold is so smart and all of his opinions are correct, he's just common sense man. I mean, he is when he has knowledge on the subject. But did you hear how he just described the technical situation of New World? There's something wrong with the registry of this game and it affects your positioning on the servers? Bro, he just strung together random technical words that had no meaning. Okay, you know what New World does have is memory leaks. And you used to be able to see this really easily because sometimes items would load the wrong icon, or sometimes they'd load a broken, like, black and pink square type icon, right? Memory leaks. Memory address errors is what the game had, in addition to having no checks or security. And a while back, there was a question of, is New World actually client authoritative rather than server authoritative? Meaning, if you do something on your client, the server can't actually stop you, which makes it a cheating festival, right? And it's in a weird state where it was kind of half and half. They've done some things to remedy this. There's now some, but in the way that they implemented the anti-cheat, they created a bunch of delays and lag. Not big ones, but just like things will take like half a second to a second longer. And if you had been playing the game when it was implemented, you immediately noticed, oh, they made everything slow and clunky because they're scanning me, right? They're checking my character versus the server record to see if I've just duplicated gold or whatever. So yes, be careful with the worship of the cult of the bald man, because there's some things he doesn't know about, and usually they're more erudite things. But even so, I don't disagree with his point. We're speaking the same language with different words here. New World has some weird technical problems, and it's all based on the fact that they insisted on using their in-house engine, which I believe used to be called Lumberyard, and they renamed the Azoth engine, just to make sure you knew the reason the engine sucked is because it's New World's engine. Hopefully they've improved it by the time this expansion pack comes out.
With the greatsword is a great example of this. It's a double hit ability where 50% of the time only one hit will register. Any form of slightly elevated terrain in a combat area will make your character desync, and the actual running animation in this game feels so scuffed to me. Like, the run animation is faster than the speed you actually run. I don't know what it is, but it just looks off. Also,
Yeah.
Yeah, that does look bad. I never even noticed that.
log into the game after playing any other third-person RPG,
That's
you
a
just
charm
feel
of the
like
game,
New
okay?
World
That
should
gives a
have a
character.
sprint, but it doesn't. I kinda wish the game did have a sprint, to be honest, but right now my biggest issues with New World is definitely with the movement, inconsistent combat,
Yo, I know this isn't what the video is about, but man, it felt good to have your company win a town and have your flag up there. Oh man, that's one of the best things about the game for me, because I was with a group of players, you know, I was in some pretty strong companies. Often never the best on the server either. We were always like the scrappy number 2 company. So we always had just fantastic wars, just great PvP engagements. I would say the PvP in New World, if you could set aside the exploits and the problems and just focus on like the moment-to-moment gameplay where it worked as intended, probably the best PvP experience I've had in any MMORPG. The combat's not too fast or too slow. The one thing that was just a little painful was the advantage that light armor and ranged people had in PvP early on, but I believe they've done a lot to change that around, so I can't speak to what the metagame is now in Wars.
I think the combat feels shitty. That's the problem. It's like that low-level combat, like fighting against a level 7 boar feels great, but actually, like New World, actually, here's a good way to say it. The more seriously you take New World combat, the more you'll hate it. It's worse than Dark Souls 2.
That's somewhat true, but
I
don't think Asmon's ever been in a war ever.
Eventually
Maybe
fully
one.
completing every
He was
quest
not
in the zone,
part of
including
that
side
metagame.
quests. And I have to say, when it comes to questing, New World has come a very long way. This is a game that was notoriously dog shit for questing back at launch. Every quest was go to this.
Yeah, I'm sure he's about to say it here, but they did a big quest revamp, and you know me, I'm a completionist for quests, and wow, I like the lore. I actually do like the background lore of New World, Aeternum, and all the things that are going on in that world is actually really cool, but you never would have found that out because the quests were awful. They were awful. And all the lore was in, like, hidden lore items you could discover and things like that. The quests themselves were doggers. However, then they did the revamp, and it took it to a completely new level. You know, they were really well voice acted. The Brimstone Sands quests were phenomenal. And I don't think I ever went through and did all the new old quests, but I did some of them. And they were pretty good. They were definitely pretty good. So I really wonder where they're going to go with this expansion now, because they've had a lot of time to cook and think up what a quest is supposed to be.
This POI, loot crates, get item, run halfway across the map and repeat. But now it's much more varied, there's some actual story.
Bro, fighting this fucking goat. You would get to right here, and this fucking goat would spawn, and it was like, it had like this affix, and it said like something like, likes to headbutt, or something like that, and he would headbutt you, and he would knock you off, and then you would have to go back and do the entire thing over again. And the worst thing about it is that the goat dropped a really good fucking helmet. So then I had to sit there and refarm. His prefix is pushy. Yes, exactly. The fucking affix he has, he's pushy. So I sat there and I killed this goat like 70 times.
And narrative interwoven into it. There's puzzles, climbing quests, more varied enemies, quest rewards are actually decent now.
Yeah.
The difference is night and day from launch, and I actually consider New World's questing to be pretty good nowadays.
New World had really good music.
The Brimstone Sands questing is good.
Yes.
It is good.
True.
Also, another fact is that it is fully voice acted. Every quest is voice acted.
Next, I did the Ennard dungeon and was quickly reminded that I do actually enjoy dungeons in New World. And I think in terms of visuals,
I think this is one of the worst fights that's ever been made.
True.
Of the most.
Okay, I didn't expect to agree with Asmon here. I figured he would have liked this one, but this fight, conceptually, it was good. It's a council boss, right? Lots of games do this. but New World did it wrong, and it was just not fun. There's a phase here where you have to like interact with some stuff in the room, and just it's not good. It wasn't good.
Epic looking dungeons in the MMO genre. I spent some time sorting through all my storage and selling stuff to free up some space for the new expansion. If you haven't played since launch, storage in New World is all connected now rather than local to each town, which means
I at first did not appreciate this. I am someone who enjoyed the way New World was, where locations mattered and all the auction houses were separate. And I would make profit off doing arbitrage. I would bring useful materials from the capital cities out to the tangent high-level zones and sell them there at a significant markup. I thought that was great. When they merged the auction houses, something was lost in the game for me, for sure. However, the merged storage, it's way too convenient. It's way too good. I do like that it's sectioned off town by town. I know that there are players, I would bet that Asmongold is one of these players that wish it were all just like one mega storage. That would be horrible, right? Think about a bookshelf. You don't just have a bookshelf that's an open space with no shelves where you stack things on top of each other, right? You have shelving to create sections to help you organize things. People who do not understand this are not organized people. You can tell Asmon is not an organized people by the way that his room looks, right? That just is who he is. He's a my mother was like this, a bit of a chaos hoarder type person, right? I'm sure it makes sense to them, right? You ask them, hey, where's your comb? They know where their comb is. It's under a box in the next room, but for you to ever find that comb, you would never be able to do it because it's not in a place where people keep it. So I think that all merged storage would be bad, but the linked storage where you could tab over to the next town over, and every town had its own weight. Having a house in the town, you could have chests which would increase your weight, so you kind of got to select, make a meaningful choice where you personally wanted to make your little outpost. You would put your house in a town with a company who ran town buffs that you wanted, like crafting buffs. There's a lot of interesting dynamics with the housing and storage system that I don't think players really appreciated. But if it were gone, I don't know. I think it would be worse.
Means storage management is much less of a pain in the ass nowadays.
I'm assuming they probably can't do this because they're, is there a roach on my leg?
Jesus Christ. You see what you see what I meant about not being organized?
Whatever. So yeah, the storage, right? I think they should just make it to where like you have one big storage rather than you have to open up each one. Because
Fucking called it.
To be kind of annoying that like I have to put like, because you guys, if you played New World recently, this is probably what you did, right? Is you would put all of your leatherworking stuff in one zone and you would put all of your mining stuff in another zone, something like that. It's fucking stupid. You should just have
it's called being organized, guy who doesn't know why he has cockroaches on his leg. What the fuck?
Inventory.
And tools now go up to legendary 600.
Fucking guy has vermin crawling around on his legs and doesn't understand why people want to organize their materials. Okay, anyway.
Gear score, and will likely go higher for the new expansion, so I replaced all of my blues.
Maybe you should organize the garbage and rotting food away from your feet. Okay, that's enough.
With
legendary, it's gonna go to 700. Which, by the way, I don't think 700's high enough if they had the same scaling. I think one of the problems with New World, especially at level 60, is that you don't really feel, or like, I don't really feel like you get that much stronger after you hit 60. Like, a lot of the item perks don't really feel super great, and apparently they're fixing that with artifact level weapons and artifact items, but yeah, like, because you just go from 600 to 625. It's not enough, man.
Set of instruments, made a gear set for healer, strength, dex, and mage.
The progression between 600 and 625 was pretty ball-busting too. It was not. It was a grind. It was a hell of a
system comparable to games like Guild Wars 2 and World of Warcraft, where you unlock the appearance of all dropped gear. There is one caveat to this though,
Oh
because of course
no.
there fucking is.
I see it.
Basically, to actually transmog gear, you need transmog
Fucking
tokens,
pay.
which can be
Pay
bought
to
off the cash
transmog.
shop. 5
Jesus
tokens
fuck.
costs like $10. So if you're
$10?
constantly changing your outfit, it's not cheap. Just
What
to
the
clarify,
fuck?
once you've unlocked something once, you don't need to spend more money to reapply it again. It is permanently unlocked for you to use as a skin at any time, but for additional skins you'll need more tokens. Something that
Sounds really stupid.
Yeah.
instantly pissed me off with this system is that the preview window to actually view your appearance
Oh,
is
of
dog
course.
shit, and depending on the time of day, like nighttime for example,
Yeah.
you can't actually see the colours properly, which is annoying because you definitely want to get a good look at how your character will look before committing to spending money.
So you can't.
AGA
Point. Yeah, I wouldn't think it would matter that much, but the fact that you have to spend money to do it makes it even more annoying.
Yeah, you can't actually accurately see what you're paying for in a feature that every other game does not monetize. Now they might monetize the items themselves, but applying them, paying real money to change your transmog? Oh man, New World must have had some hard times while I was gone. That's disgusting.
Yes,
You can also earn tokens in game. How easily though?
Oh,
please improve.
it's not pay to win, cause you can do a little bit in game. You can grind all week for one tiny transmog token. What? Why are you making an excuse? Like man, not. It used to be that features would add into the game, and then eventually they would become monetized if players found them desirable. With this, they started with the monetization and added the play to earn feature after, like playing the game to earn things as an afterthought. Disgusting.
Improve the transmog character preview window. After that I solo queued some 3v3 PvP arena, and despite never doing it
One a week
before,
and
was
not easy?
surprisingly
That's
less
nothing.
tryhard and more fun than I expected. I'm glad I was able to just
Arenas.
solo queue this rather than manually find other players, otherwise I probably wouldn't have bothered.
Yeah,
Wait, is that a new arena map? I don't think I've seen that before. Okay, maybe arenas are better than I remember. When I played arenas, there was one map, and it was it's like a Great Cleave arena. But I didn't play it when it came out. I only played it later when it became like disconnected instance content. Apparently there used to be a physical location in the game, and it was really hyped to have it that way, but I never got to experience that. This looks like a Brimstone Sands tile set arena, which I have never seen. So maybe it's more interesting now that there's more like terrain features and stuff to run around in.
It was quite enjoyable and rewarding enough that I'd definitely play it again. I spent a bit of time leveling up my music skill, which seems to have had the experience per level heavily reduced.
Yo, can we just... Can I go back? Can I see the music notes? Yeah. The way that New World did music and bardic stuff. So if you want to be a bard in New World, it's a profession. It's a trade skill. And it was basically a rhythm game. It kind of looks like DDR or Guitar Hero or something like that, right? It was good. It was really good. You pull out whatever instrument. Your instrument has some bonuses on it. You go ahead and play the song. If people tip you, like a couple coin, it wasn't really a lot of money, but for kind of like in Baldur's Gate, how your bard can play and people toss coins to you, right? Toss a coin. It was good, and then they'd get the buff that you were generating with your song. There was a bunch of different songs. It was a collectible throughout the world, so you could get new songs, right? New songs for different instruments as well, so kind of tickled that completionist part of my brain really well. Kind of felt like, in terms of how acquisition worked, it's similar to Dragonflight and the Drake Watcher manuscripts, which are the things that let you customize your dragon riding mount. There's a lot of them. They're all over the place. Doesn't matter if you do them or not. They're entirely cosmetic. If you never wanted to go buy or acquire the other songs, the song portion was entirely auditorily cosmetic. You could still get all the buffs. So it didn't matter if you were playing the same old song 100 times or if you had some variety. However, I will also say the songs are bangers, right? They used all the in-game soundtracks for the different zones and stuff, and New World has phenomenal sound design, as we mentioned earlier. So this is an underappreciated feature, the music system that they added. Now, New World's a classless game. There's no classes. You're not like a fighter or a priest or a bard, right? You're just a dude, and whatever weapon and tools you've got equipped determine what you're doing. So, this wouldn't necessarily work for every game, but I implore all game designers to look at how New World implemented music and bardic skills, because there's definitely something novel here that MMORPGs could use.
Leveling up my music skill, which seems to have had the experience per level heavily reduced since the last time I played the game. And finally, I took on a seasonal 10-player boss, which wasn't overly difficult, but it was fun because the rewards were good.
Oh yeah,
the boss
me either.
had a few
I haven't done a raid
mechanics,
boss.
and it was easy to join a group by just Xing up in recruitment chat.
Go and do this.
It seems like New World's actually making a bit of a push to more traditional MMO-style raid content, as aside from the 10-player seasonal raid boss, there's also a 20-player instanced sandworm raid boss that, as of making this video, is apparently the hardest boss in the game.
And he's still really hard, right? Like, my understanding is that the sandworm fight is actually pretty hard.
Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to do it yet, as I can't find a group, but it looks super cool regardless.
That's cool. Yeah, you have to look up and shoot those things that are in the air. That's actually really fucking badass.
So next, let's discuss all of the info you need to know about New World's new upcoming expansion,
Finally.
Rise of the Angry Earth. First of all, this expansion will release on October
3rd, so that's pretty soon. That's a couple weeks away. I should probably log into New World and get my character ready. Price of $29.99, and if you don't own the base game, $69.99 to bundle it. I believe the base game was $40 on release, so no price decreases on that, or no price increases on that. $29.99 for an expansion pack is a very fair price considering there is no subscription fee. Well, that's why they have a battle pass and all the bullshit microtransactions, but just like base value, $29.99, they're going the Guild Wars route, kinda. It seems good value to me.
3rd alongside Season 3, and will be a paid expansion, costing $29.99. New players will be able to buy the base game plus the expansion in a bundle for $69.99. This expansion comes with a new zone.
Wow. That's cool. Let me see that again. Oh, this is in First Light. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No shot. No, I really don't think $30 is a big deal. Like, this is a buy-to-play game that's had multiple updates for free. Like, I really don't think a $30 expansion 2 years after the release is a big deal, guys.
Remember First Light, the zone south of Windswood? Yeah, that zone no longer exists. It's fallen to the Angry Earth and will be transformed to the Elysian Wilds, completely unrecognizable from the place it was before. Mounts are finally being added to New World and will come with a new trade skill called Riding, which you'll be able to level up for upgrades to speed, buffs, and higher tier mount consumables. Mounts will come in the form of horses, direwolves, and lions initially, with more likely to be added over time. You'll be able to name your mount and also deck it out with customizable equipment, which will undoubtedly be...
Okay, so this is an interesting idea right here. So, horse armor. No, but not just for cosmetics, right? Like that, the fact that those icons are orange and blue, and so that means there are combat effects or powers or stats or something that you can equip to your horse, so everyone's horse will have some unique features. If they do that right, that'll be really cool. That makes it worth adding mounts. So I may have to change my initial first impression on mounts, because my perception is all they did was make the new zone bigger so that it's going to feel like you need a mount. And I have a feeling they're going to do the same to First Light as well. You'll notice a lot of the stuff they added was like a big zigzag plant path, so that'll increase the total amount of distance that your character has to travel. However, this opens up an economy and professions. This opens up drops in the world, probably, maybe even from dungeons and raids. Do mounts work in PvP? How does that go? Do you need PvP equipment for your mount? There's a lot of questions I have that tell me that okay, there might be something innovative, there might be something novel here. I will try to keep an open mind.
Sold on the cash shop.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know you could put armor on the mount. That's badass.
A new weapon will be added to the game in the form of
Hey,
the flail,
another
which
shield
can be
weapon.
used either one-handed or with a shield. The flail scales with
Tank
strength
weapon.
and focus, and has abilities
Strength
that
and
can debuff
focus.
enemies and absorb ally
Paladin
damage,
weapon.
making it a
Now we're
solid choice as
talking.
a sec-
Yo, 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 yo. Strength and focus paladin flail? Oh yeah. We're gonna try that. We're gonna try that so hard. Oh my god. People have wanted that for a long, long time. One of the first builds that had to be nerfed in New World was heavy healers. Healers in heavy plate armor who used sword and shield and life staff. And so their healing wasn't as good, but you could never kill them. You could never ever kill them. It was impossible. Yeah. Interesting. They nerfed it and lost a lot of players who wanted that paladin style fantasy in the game. So adding this flail, which also I believe it said it could be used with the shield or not, that sounds pretty cool. That sounds pretty cool, I have to admit.
secondary for both tanks and healers from the sounds of it. Progression in New World will also be changed quite a bit. You'll be able to level up your character to 65, gear score will now go up to item level 700, trade skills up to 250, and the devs are completely removing the expertise system, which means there's no tedious barrier to entry grind that new players will need to go through to get decent loot. The new zones...
The expertise thing was fucking stupid. Yeah, I mean, they have improved a lot of those systems, thank God, yeah. And then, like, you know, as an in-game player, like, the ward system was so stupid, too. Like, you were basically farming 4 sets of gear with the same stats, except one stat was different, because there's a different mob type that you're fighting. Yeah, it was the most artificial playtime increase that you could possibly imagine. It was so stupid.
straight up.
So I'm gonna take exception to this, because what they're doing is removing Bane and Ward items. So, you know, you might have a Beast Bane item, makes you do more damage to beasts and animals. But they're adding plus elemental damage items. So instead of an item that says you do more damage to Angry Earth, you're gonna have an item that says you do more fire damage, which is the damage type you would use against Angry Earth. So, nothing really changed on that front, right? This is the illusion of a fix. However, it does solve one problem, which is that Bane and Ward were completely useless in PvP. So now you won't have to switch from PvE to PvP gear. In theory, you can probably have, if you're a casual, you can probably have a set that works okay in both. However, if you're a hardcore, you would never do that. You're still going to choose different armor sets with completely different perks. Most people don't stick just to one weapon either. I know, like, people generally had every weapon leveled up and would be able to change to any... You just change your class like Final Fantasy XIV has, essentially, right? You can respec at any time. There's just like a cost to it. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think I really like the removal of Ward and Bane, because they haven't solved the problem if they're just putting elemental damage on armor. You will just need to farm fire damage for Angry Earth, and I don't remember all the different weaknesses of the creatures, but you get the idea.
Up drop gear that's 625 or higher,
Yeah.
and the hardest content will drop the best gear.
Yo, we got
as it
monkeys.
should.
There wasn't
There's
monkeys
also going to be
before.
a new tier of faction gear, new faction questline, and a new rarity of gear called
Damn, so that's an artifact item.
artifacts, which will need...
Oh. Okay, let's look at this. Magnify. So, highest attribute. Okay, so Magnify looks like it adds... Okay, so this would mean the item changes when you respec. So you... So they're really trying to reduce the amount that people needed to keep different items in their bags. Because if you have a if it looks like magnify would apply to any build, so if you respec out of dexterity into strength, then it would probably give that bonus to strength. And then it looks like the additional perks are locked behind a grind, so you have to like go out and do things to unlock the additional powers. I don't know how I feel about that. I like grindy gameplay, so I'd probably enjoy this, but I have a feeling the player base might not enjoy this. Wonder what the bald man thinks.
To be awakened via a quest line to unlock up to 6 perks, with one of them apparently being placed on
well,
a
which one was
quest
the
and a
first?
new.
What is this here? So you have to kill a bunch of mobs. Okay, well, I mean, like, who gives a fuck about this? I mean, this is the exact same way that the, remember, like, you would have to do the quests in order to get, like, those 580 item level weapons at the beginning of the game?
Oh, yeah,
I did the
true.
quest line to get,
True,
like,
true, true.
the Azure Ravager, like, axe or some shit. So this is basically the same thing again.
Rarity of gear called artifacts, which will need to be awakened via
That's
a
true,
quest
they have a
line to
precedent
unlock
for
up
that.
to 6 perks, with one of them apparently being playstyle defining, which is quite interesting. There's also going to be quite a few apparently being playstyle defining, which is quite interesting.
Invigorated vigor, shrug off. I think that's the new one. Is that the new one? I'm not sure.
Unless something's changed, that is dog shit. That is bad perks. That's a lot of bad perks. You would never use that, at least. No, I don't think you'd use that in PvE either. I think that's just a bad item. You want weapon perks, and you want, damage. Most of these things you can dodge, so you would dodge the attack that applied the debuff and not need any of these perks. So at least at first glance, this doesn't look like it actually helps the situation where a lot of items are completely worthless. You would never wear this. Unless, like, debuffs have become way more important than when I last played the game. Look at what these say, like, reduce non-crowd controlling debuffs, reduce burn, bleed, and poison, reduce weaken, disease, exhaust, and rend. So basically you're saying you put on this item to have 35% less duration, 1/3 less duration on your debuffs, which is dog shit. No one would use this.
Yeah. That looks cool.
There's also going to be quite a few revamps to the game. The most important...
Only 32 attributes, one more than 625? No. 625 is 26. 31 is only from two-handed weapons. And actually, it's not 625, it's 623, which is the breakpoint that takes your secondary, your primary stat from 25 to 26 or from 30 to 31. It's actually not true.
True. This man did mutations.
The one, in my opinion, is the removal of Ward, Bane, and Resilience
I don't know if it's going to be enough, by the way.
Which just wasn't fun, and I'm so glad to see.
Oh, they're getting
as well as the
Resilience
main
too?
storylines.
So that I believe he just said the Ward, the Bane, and the Resilience. So Resilience was basically player ward. It reduced crit damage, and in PvP you needed 4 or 5 resilience. You needed resilience on all your gear basically, or else you would get deleted. This is the same as in World of Warcraft, where you need versatility on all your PvP gear, otherwise you get deleted. I have to say, I am not a fan of that. I think that it created a problem where the light and medium armor sets were way too tanky and survivable, which is supposed to be the benefit of playing heavy. So what happened is heavy armor was tanky, but not any really more tanky than the other types. However, it had massive mobility issues. Its dodge is really, really bad. And I believe it even when you're in heavy, you dealt less damage as well. So a massive damage nerf and a massive mobility nerf in order to take less damage, except that taking less damage part didn't work because everyone just had resilience on their gear. So while I didn't necessarily approve of Ward and Bane being removed, I think resilience being removed from the game is really, really good. Especially in PvP, you were always looking to get, so, like I said, weapon perks to add just different effects to your weapon attacks, special attacks, and it made builds really locked in. When you have 3 perks per item, you have 5 of those items having resilience, basically you only got to have 2 perks.
Of both Eden Grove and Great Cleave also being revamped.
That's good.
Aside from that, the expansion brings with it...
I'm glad they're adding that, because those are the two, like, you remember how they did, like, the 1 to 35 experience? Like, like, Great Cleave is, like, 45. So, like, they're making it to where, like, the leveling experience will just be better.
New level 6.
Yeah, and, Eden Grove, I'm surprised, well, not surprised, I guess it makes sense to redo it, but Eden Grove actually felt okay as a leveling zone to me, partially just because it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. Like, the first time you see Eden Grove gives you the same feelings that the first time you saw Night Elf areas in World of Warcraft. It's really, really, really good art, and the sound design as well. It's like this beautiful, natural, angry earth area with some ruins. Great Cleave is a piece of shit, though. Great Cleave was such a dog shit zone, and my understanding is Great Cleave is actually one of the first zones that they made, because the original conception of the game was entirely PvP, and the new, like, the main area you would have been in was probably up there in the north near Great Cleave, and it was just going to be like a free-for-all open PvP area. Obviously, since the New World Alpha and Beta, things have changed a lot. They went heavy into PvE because, well, pure PvP MMORPGs just don't work. There's not a market for people to play, right? It's very small, very niche amount of people who want to play a game like that. So, revamp Great Cleave, completely necessary. Revamp Eden Grove, not necessary. It was already really good. So I have to say, that's probably the zone I'm most excited to explore after the revamp, or in the expansion, even though I'll have out-leveled it. I am very, very interested in seeing what they do with that zone, because that was one of my favorite New World zones, maybe favorite MMORPG zones of all time. Like I said, it's up there with, like, Ashenville.
62 plus expedition, a new Heart Rune ability, a new season with events such as Night Vale Hallow and the Turkey Terror, as well as a bunch of other stuff.
They're adding Turkulon again.
Overall, after revisiting New World for a bit to prepare for the new expansion, as well as looking into all the positive changes that will come with the expansion, I really think New World is heading firmly in the right direction, and I've actually had a decent time.
I think New World has been going in the right direction for 6 months. But after going in the wrong direction for 2 years, it's going to take them a while to break even. I hope this expansion is where they do. And I actually think that New World is an enjoyable game right now. It's just that I would recommend somebody, if you want to play New World right now, make sure that you play on my server. My server is Marama, or it's Marinara, some fucking bull.
Oh shit. I might be on Asmongold's server after all the server merges. That's a little weird.
Bullshit, some stupid fucking name. It's Marama, something like that. If you see it, you'll know what it is. Play on a very populated server. Play on a populated server with a lot of people, and you will probably enjoy the game.
So far returning to the game.
At
My
least
main
until
issue
60.
with New World is still that the movement and animation feels off sometimes, as well as the inconsistency with the tax registering and the game still not having swimming. But almost every other issue I've had with the game...
Bro, can we just appreciate how the premise of New World is that you're part of this, like, colonialist group who gets on a boat to travel to the New World, but when you get to the New World, you literally just die if the water is higher than knee height. Like, what is this game that is entirely... It's got such a heavy, like, pirate conquistador, like, privateers... It's got a lot of, like, naval stuff. It's got, like, and you know, you've got the Lost, so you've got, like, zombie skeleton pirates, right? Nobody can swim. If you go in the water, you just die. That's... I believe the term is ludonarrative dissonance.
Game over the years has been resolved, and now with the addition of mounts, improvements to progression, large-scale groups, and transmog, the game seems better now than ever, so I do think it's worth jumping back into for the new expansion, because even if you don't stick around long term, you'll likely get a few weeks of fun out of it at the very least. But that's it for this video. As always, let me know your thoughts on the current state.
Yeah, okay. So, and that's my point too, right? The best time to play an MMORPG is when it first comes out, because even if it's a mediocre RPG, or a mediocre game, the fact that there's like a million people playing it, everyone's doing stuff, there's hype, things are not known yet, the metagame is still rapidly evolving and experimental, it hasn't been solved yet. It's generally the most enjoyable time. So for $30, I'm pretty sure this is gonna be worth my money. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a good gaming experience. Um, I really think, like they said in the video, New World had a lot of problems. It made a terrible first impression for so many people. Some people are never going to come back and try it, right? But even looking at the Steam charts, we saw looked like the player base picked up by about 10 or 20% in the last couple weeks. And if this expansion's coming out in a couple weeks, you know, this is the time the servers are going to start popping, right? People generally take a week or two to prepare for a future expansion. So, as I'm having the idea that I'm going to go into New World for a little bit, I bet a lot of others are too. The question is, will they keep us happy? Or will it do the same thing it did at launch, have an incredible population that just abandons them within the next month or two? So this video is getting really long. I don't really think I want to hear the conclusion. You can go check it out. I'll leave the link in the notes to this video if you want to see what their final thoughts are. But my final thoughts are, if you liked anything about New World, this is probably worth a try. I don't know if it'll have staying power, but it's not a subscription MMO. Microtransactions seem mostly optional, right? They're mostly cosmetic, a little bit of power like boosting, and some items in the Battle Pass track, but for the most part, it still looks pretty vanilla. And just have fun with it. It's a fun game, whether you like PvE or PvP. And if you like gathering, if you're the type of person who likes to go out and farm materials, New World's gathering is just so satisfying. Part of it is just the art and the sound design, but there's just something about chopping trees, right? There are so many people who just played New World to chop trees. It's crazy. You'd never think that it would be the logging simulator, but it was. So I think I will check it out. Maybe I'll make a video after my experience and see how it went. Are you interested in New World if you spent an hour and 20 minutes watching this video? I certainly hope so. Let me know down in the comments. Again, my name is Darkscream. Thanks for watching. Peace.